Teachers of Reddit, what is the craziest reason you have had to send a student to the office? Story number 1. We were doing sketch comedy in 6th grade a few years back, and seeing as it was a nice day, we went outside to practice. From across the field, I see one of my students very clearly and aggressively trying to put his junk on a prone classmate. When I asked him, he said it was for his sketch and he was playing a character named the Iron Teabag. The best was the follow-up text from my boss saying I had to Google what teabagging was before I met with the kid. Story number 2. My mom's been a teacher for many years. Besides the usual and the general nuisance kids, there was a sad one recently. Apparently, one of her middle school students had been coming in day after day, just absolutely filthy, wearing the same dirty clothes. She notifies the office, and they talk to her and the parents. Apparently, the family has been living in an RV with no running water. I'm not sure if this is due to homelessness, or what. We're in a rural area, and it's not uncommon to see people living this way. The school offers to let the girl shower at school, and they even have a special shop of sorts, free to the students of course, for clothing and things like hygiene items. The only issue is the school needs the parents' permission to let her shower there at the school, and the parents won't grant it. I'm not sure why the parents did not approve. And yes, CPS has been notified several times, but they must be deeming the family's dwelling habitable in some way, though I'm not sure how the parents are getting away with such horrid obvious neglect. My mom says the kid is just so sweet, but she smells bad and looks even worse, and she's afraid the bullying will start soon. The area I live in is absurdly poor and very rural, so sadly such instances are not unusual. Story number 3. Not crazy, but sad. I was student teaching for 2nd grade. This girl was known to come to school smelling a bit off. One day she came in constantly scratching her head nonstop for a long time. I pulled her over and asked what's wrong. She told me her head won't stop hurting. She was on the verge of tears, and she was scratching hard. I told her to let me look. She had a massive bald spot on the middle of her head and was also bright red from the scratching as well as a rash. I pulled over my mentor teacher. We called her mother while writing a CPS report. The teacher was telling the mom that her daughter was scratching her head and wondered if something happened. The mom took it as an attack and yelled that we said she was a bad mom. My teacher said she didn't say that and she should come get her daughter and have her checked out. The mom's response, "I can't right now, I'm with my boyfriend, he's more important," and hung up. She called CPS and I took her to the office. The nurse checked her out. She had a major case of lice, and she also notified CPS. She was out for a week. She came back and I asked how she was doing. She said she's all right, but her mom didn't want her talking about it. This was about 4 years ago. No idea where she is or how she's doing, and I think about her all the time. Story number 4. 2 stories. The first one is just super sad. I was covering for a 5th grade class, and a girl walks in wearing a Hustler 2 top, a pair of Daisy Dukes that were cutting off circulation, even though she was a super tiny 10-year-old, and a whale tail sticking out the back. She very clearly had not dressed herself, and she was visibly uncomfortable, both literally and figuratively. Poor thing was grateful to be taken to the office, though I'm sure the call home was unpleasant. The second one is just weird. Each morning I let my kids talk about whatever they want for 5 minutes. Kinda like show and tell for teenagers. One morning a kid opens the comment portion by just saying "Kobe." That's it. No elaboration, nothing. A kid in the back says, "Man, Kobe sucks." First kid was super offended. What? Yo mama sucks. Before I could even register the craziness that was happening, the second kid is out of his chair, over the tables, and wailing away on the first kid's face. I had to write up a report of what happened, and the office staff kept saying I needed to finish the report. This can't be everything that happened. Oh, but it was. Utterly bizarre. Story number 5. Not a teacher, but my dad was a bus driver, and one day, this kid gets on the bus, sprinting, and nearly knocks himself out on the chair. When my dad goes over to see what's happened, he realizes the kid had no pants on. The mother, who drove off in her car extremely quickly, had literally sent this poor kid to school with no pants on. My dad got a student he knew really well to sit next to this kid and comfort him, and also make sure everyone else wasn't assholes. My dad, when he finally got to the school, walked this kid into the office and asked for a spare pair of pants. Poor kid. That mother was an asshole. Story number 6. A friend of mine told me about when him and his brother went to school. His brother would see the counselor, probably because he suffers from bipolar disorder. My friend walked past the door to the counselor's office and sees the counselor and principal on top of his brother, holding him down. He said when he noticed, he saw red, punched the principal, and pulled the counselor off. They had to call in someone else to restrain him. They called his parents, and his dad had to leave work to go talk to them. He was initially mad at my friend and his brother, until he found out the reason that the brother was being held down stemmed from bouncing his leg while sitting down. The counselor asked him to stop bouncing his leg. He wouldn't, and it somehow escalated into him being held down on the ground. His dad then had a private conversation that the boys didn't get to listen in on. They ended up leaving early, and his dad told them don't worry, they weren't going to be in trouble. My friend said after that, they never saw the counselor or principal again. Story number 7. I was in my final trainings to be a teacher and working at an elementary school, first grade class, and one of my duties was helping kids struggling with their reading. One girl named Taylor told me that her mom told her that she was too pretty to know how to read. She was dead serious. I end up calling her mom to get this sorted, and she comes to the school after the kids had left and tries to fuck me to get her daughter better grades. Another kid. This kid came from a real bad home. Was always dirty, was never fed. I could tell he was beaten. One day he comes in with a slim burn mark around his neck. His older brother took a wire hanger, put it on the stove until it was glowing hot, and then tried to choke him with it. We have a parent meeting with the principal, and the dad shows up drunk and tried to fight us for spreading lies about him and how he raises his kids. This kid doesn't come to school for 2 weeks, maybe 3. This was a while ago. When he does come back, he won't talk. He's covered in bruises, one eye swollen shut. I lost it. Took him down to the office to do anything to get him pulled from his home. But sadly, it takes a while for that to happen. I freaked out and quit. I couldn't take it anymore, had been dealing with this for 8 months. Turns out I'm overly empathetic. The dad shows up at the school the next day with a gun looking for me. I was back at school switching majors even though I was a few weeks away from graduating and getting my teaching certification. A week later, I was watching the news and there was a passing story of a child being beaten to death by his parent. Yep, same kid. I still cry about it. Story number 8. My wife is a high school teacher. She was teaching a lower-level math class, and she had a student who was probably too smart for the class, but too lazy or too cool to take a harder class. One day, out of boredom, he was throwing his pencil up at the ceiling. On the 3rd or 4th try, it got stuck. So he threw a pen to try to dislodge it. Didn't work. He then threw his notebook at it. Missed again. So he stands up on the desk chair combo, takes his notebook, jumps in the air, and swats at the pencil. Pencil fell to the floor. He lands on the desk, which, if you remember those desk-chair combos, is not supported by the chair's center of balance. He falls off the desk and lands on the floor. Oh wait, did I mention the lockbox on his ankle? I think I left that out. The lockbox pops off and lands on the floor. He looks for a second, says, "I have to go to the office, the police are coming to get me," grabs the lockbox, and sprints out the classroom door. Story number 9. School counselor here who is forced against their will to mostly remediate behavior. 2nd grader coming back from suspension shouting, "I'm back, motherfuckers," upon returning into the room. 4th grader calling other students' parents to tell on them. I thought it was pretty creative despite everyone else being up in arms. 3rd grader having a meltdown about getting parents called. Not in itself a big deal. But the student then shouts, and they take all their parenting advice from Brittany. I hate Brittany. 2nd grader kicking the cane out from beneath an elderly sub. 4th grade gambling ring based of the school's token economy. 5th grade snack bandit who covertly sold snacks because the school's food is so bad. Again, not sure why everyone was up in arms. I can go on,